great to be here.
Great to have
Love
you.
what you've done with the place.
Why, thank you.
You've really remodeled. You got rid of the big newscaster desk you had before.
And the bumblebee microphones,
I guess it didn't fit in your living room decor.
It's been a while.
It has been a while.
Been
but
a
you
minute.
haven't changed at all.
Oh, thank you.
I've changed dramatically, as my wife tells me all the time. She likes to say that when she married me, I was her young jailbait lover. But now look at the gray hair and the glasses.
You are the distinguished.
I am the distinguished husband now.
Here today to talk about your latest book that's going to be dropping June 1st, Murder by Design. I remember when I spoke with Megan and she said, here's the book, I hadn't read what it's about. Murder by Design. And I thought, okay, so this will be about a detective who runs across a killer who's very intentional about how they commit their crimes. There's a design to it, but I had no idea that you were tying this all into architecture.
Well, it's not just architecture. It's all kinds of designs, landscape design, the design of devices. I may be getting ahead of myself in the questions you have, but we live almost entirely in a built world where we're trying to either master nature or have the world master us. It controls and constrains our behavior, and we're just oblivious to it. We move through it like zombies.
There is someone I want to mention. You had said the primary character, Edison Bixby and Wally Nash, but Edison Bixby in particular was years in the making.
Yeah.
And it was inspired by the architect Bernard Tschumi.
I don't know how you pronounce it, but not him as an individual, but something he once said.
Right, which is to really appreciate architecture, you may even need to commit a murder.
I don't know where I came across that years ago, but it just stuck with me. And then I looked into him and the kind of work that he did. He did some interesting art exhibits in New York City where he explored the whole idea that architecture and design could create not only the environment for murder, but the inevitability of murder or of a crime. And he used Central Park and some tenement buildings and whatnot to illustrate that concept. And I thought, what a great idea for how to solve a murder, how to do a murder mystery. And I just started reading tons of books about design. I just devoured books and studies and articles about design, not quite sure what I would do with it or when, but this research was ongoing for many years, as I did other projects.
Edison Bixby, Wally Nash, tell us a little bit about what the book.
Well, Edison Bixby is the character I created who uses design to solve crimes. He goes backwards. He sees a dead body and he asks, how did this body get here? What is it about this place that made the crime not only possible, but inevitable? And that leads back to who the killer is. Or in some cases, looking at an accident and realizing it's not an accident at all. The building did it. The path did it. The device did it. With my book and with this character, what I wanted to do was sort of deconstruct the classic whodunit mystery, which always has the quirky, unusual social outcast detective and his or her assistant. And it's Sherlock Holmes, it's Monk, it's Nero Wolfe, it's Hercule Poirot. There are always detectives who can't get laid, who have terrible problems, but they're brilliant. They're deductive geniuses, but that kind of makes them separate from society. I wanted to subvert that. Edison Bixby is gorgeous. He's rich. He gets laid all the time. He's not a social outcast whatsoever.
You have a thing with Bond, with 007.
I like James Bond because, look at me. Daniel Craig left the role. I had to say, no, I don't want it. I'm sticking to writing.
Thank goodness, because Daniel would not have had a career otherwise.
Exactly.
So we appreciate the sacrifice you made.
I've always loved James Bond. I have all the James Bond posters. I'm a Bond fanatic. I wasn't trying to do James Bond. I just was trying to do the opposite of every one of these detectives who just don't fit in. The only significant relationship they have is with their beleaguered assistant. And they always have the friend on the force who's not very bright, who the detective makes look stupid because they have these brilliant deductions. And I service all those tropes, but I also try to subvert them. I want to satisfy what you're looking for in a whodunit, but do something different. And that's partly to keep myself awake while I'm writing this stuff, because I wrote for Monk. I wrote for Nero Wolfe. I did Diagnosis Murder and all these shows. I'm still doing shows like that. And I know how the formula works. And I want to basically say to the reader, I know and you know what the tropes are. And don't worry, I'm going to give you what you want, but I'm also going to surprise you. And that's what I try to do with Edison Bixby.
And you absolutely accomplished that.
And there's one other element to Edison Bixby that's different. He doesn't just have this superpower, the way he looks at the world, but when he was an LAPD detective with a 100% case clearance rate, he was very full of himself. He showed up at crime scenes in a Bugatti with a bubble light on top, stepped out in a Tom Ford suit like James Bond. And he was kind of a pompous jerk. And he reveals a murder at one point and makes fun of the murderer, and the murderer shoots him in the face.
I can't believe you just gave that away.
Well, that's
I actually wanted you to read that, and I thought, oh no, let's save that for the reader.
Well, it's actually in the product description for the book. It's in the jacket of the jacket copy that he doesn't have the ability anymore. He has a neurological disorder, a traumatic
Does he?
that prevents him from thinking before he speaks. And
I think he had that problem prior to the accident. But we can lean into the fact that it might be because of the accident. Worse. You made it worse, absolutely.
But now, if someone fat walks by, he'll say, "You're fat." He'll say things that are socially unacceptable. They're sexist, racist,
yes,
plain out rude. And as a result, he needs someone to clean up after him, to make apologies. And that's where his assistant comes in. So that Edison Bixby avoids lawsuits, he has an assistant to try to apologize for him. But, maybe Edison's neurological disorder, like you said, is not as bad as he makes it seem.
I have to say, Wally Nash and Edison Bixby, my comparison to them was, this is a modern day odd couple. Mm-hmm. Two opposites, yada, yada. And then I thought, but they're not opposites. To me, they're not opposites at all. They are very much alike insofar as they have a very specific way that they look at the world. They are very committed to the lens in which they view the world. And they both believe their lens is right. Mm-hmm. And yet, they're yin and yang. I mean, they work together so well. Who came first, Edison or Wally?
I don't know, to tell you the truth. My guess is Edison Bixby did. And I had to think of who would be the yin to his yang. I don't honestly remember the order. They probably came sort of at the same time. Because when I think about story, I don't start with the murder mystery. I start with who are the characters and then what situation can I put them in that will bring out who they are and what makes them special, that will create conflict either for comedy or for drama. And I think when coming up with Edison Bixby, I had to come up with his opposite. Someone who would bring a different point of view into the world, but also would create conflict for Edison Bixby, who would disagree with him, who would show him up, and vice versa. Wally Nash is a struggling actor in Los Angeles who has aspirations to be so much more, and the best roles he can get are playing dead bodies on NCIS and Grey's Anatomy and doing drug commercials. And the best drug commercials in his mind are the ones for people with flatulence and troublesome colons and horrible erectile dysfunctions, because there are layers to play. There are no layers to play if someone needs some new wax for their car or is looking for great furniture. But someone with a serious disorder, that he can bring his acting chops to that. And he's like the opposite of Edison Bixby, because people remember him as, oh yeah, you're the guy with explosive flatulence who can't be in an office, who had to use this miracle prescription. And he has to explain, no, I play that character. I don't actually have that problem. He's kind of full of himself too. He narrates the book, and you have to wonder just how reliable a narrator he is.
Speaking of which, let's have you read the prologue, because I was surprised that this entire story is from his point of view.
Yeah.
And his
Which, by the way, scares my wife. Whenever I have books that write first person, she worries, oh my God, that's part of you. For you to be able to write like that, you must think that way. Who are you? Who's this strange man I married? Now, I have to warn you, I am not Wally Nash. I'm not an actor, so I don't know how well I'll read this material, even though I wrote it. And, I may want to rewrite it as I'm reading it, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
All right, you ready?
Ready.
Okay. There are some things you need to know before I start telling you this incredible, improbable, but absolutely true story. In life, there's the natural world, the built world, and the imaginary world. The natural world is the earth itself, the land, the sea, the air. The built world is the one designed by humans that we've imposed on the natural world so we can try to exert some control over it and improve our lives. And then there's the imaginary world, the one that exists in our minds and that we share with others through the arts. We all live in the first two worlds, but the third one is my happy place. That's because I'm an actor and a writer. My name is Wally Nash, and my passion is telling stories and playing characters. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to make a career out of it yet, but this book could change all that. I've self-published 2 novels, which are way too edgy and literary for mainstream publishers, and I've had roles on NCIS, Grey's Anatomy, and The Rookie. I was a corpse in all 3 shows, and if you saw them, I was able to convey, even in death, the totality of their characters and their unfulfilled dreams. But the combined earnings from those gigs might buy me a week's worth of McDonald's Happy Meals. So, to pay the bills and still have time for auditions and writing, I work with a temporary staffing agency. Which was how I met a man who sees the built world with a clarity nobody else does, and who would completely change my life. A man who is, let's face it, the only reason you've read this far. The sickening, wealthy, painfully handsome, irritatingly brilliant, outrageously self-absorbed, and infuriatingly manipulative detective, Edison Bixby.
And it's so true. Again, that opening completely took me by surprise. And I thought, what is this? What is this?
You expecting me to tell you?
No.
It's a damn good book is what it is.
It
deserves a Nobel Prize for literature. Is there a Nobel Prize for literature?
World Peace, I think.
Maybe it's
World
just a Pulitzer.
Peace is in there.
I can dream.
Who was more fun to write?
Oh, they're both a lot of fun.
Completely outrageous.
I mean, the fun of Edison Bixby is letting him say the most racist, sexist, horrible things. Everything that crosses his mind. A woman walks by, nice ass. I mean, he'll say it. But, it's funny because some people have reviewed the book already and said, he's so offensive. Well, yes, he can't control what he says. But it's also a little bit like Columbo, who would walk out of a room and then turn back to the rich guy and say, just one more thing. Yep. And you have to wonder, is he really that absent-minded, or is he incredibly shrewd? Is he doing it to put people off his game? And Wally Nash, being an actor, has his doubts about just how traumatic that brain injury is. It lets him get away with an awful lot of stuff. Saying things that nobody else can get away with because he could say, neurological disorder. I mean, look at the scar on my forehead.
Sometimes I think most people would want that excuse.
I mean, even
just to be able to say whatever's on their mind.
I like to think of myself as a nice guy, liberal, open to all things. But yeah, I have my own biases. I have my own. We all think things that if they were said out loud, we'd be mortified. Like when you're someone you love says, "Do I look fat in this dress?" And like, my God, they look like the Goodyear blimp. And you say, "Absolutely not."
No.
But what if you actually said yes? Or. I know, there are people with you can't tell I had plastic surgery, can you? No, it looks remarkable. When they look like they've been butchered, they've gone through a weed whacker. We all politely lie in society. It's the grease for social interactions. We all tell little lies, but Bixby sometimes isn't able to tell them.
Do you like Los Angeles?
You'd think reading my books that I don't, but I love it here. It's the perfect place for me. I keep saying, I wish I could do what I do living somewhere else. And the fact is I could, but I don't. I stay.
So to your point, why is it that when we read your books, it's got this kind of sarcastic, jaded point of view in regards to the city?
Well, we talked about this before the show. You've read, I think, 2 of my books, which both happen to be lighthearted, more comedic books. I have
Gated Prey wasn't.
Oh no,
so,
you did, okay? You read Gated Prey.
Yes.
So my most successful books are the Eve Ronin books, which are about the youngest female homicide detective in Los Angeles Sheriff's Department history. And L.A. is a character, but mostly Calabasas and that area, Malibu, Santa Monica Mountains, that area where I live is what I talk about. Mainly because it's an area of Los Angeles that hasn't been written about to death. Edison Bixby and Wally Nash cover all of not just Los Angeles, but they go up to Northern California and other places. And the book that I'm writing now, they actually go off to Singapore. They work for a global insurance company. Bixby's an insurance investigator now. But I love writing about LA. What I love about LA is there's that old saying, the world is a stage, but Los Angeles is the stage. Everything is a set. The whole city is a backlot. Everybody's an actor. Everybody's a writer. Everybody's a producer. There's a hotel near my house that has been a casino, an airport, a foreign embassy. It's been all kinds of things and all kinds of TV shows. I get a kick watching shows like Hacks, which is supposed to be set in Las Vegas, but shoots all the time in Los Angeles and just puts a CGI skyline of Las Vegas behind it. It's a street in Long Beach. It's obvious. I've shot there myself. Who are you kidding? Putting Treasure Island Casino behind that. It's LA. And all these shows that are supposedly in Miami, and it's clearly Marina Del Rey and Long Beach. The city is itself an actor. And it's to me, it's fun to look at the duality of Los Angeles. It's the real city and then the cities it pretends to be.
Right, the illusion.
And it's an illusion factory here. Less so now because of all the runaway production, but still aerospace and dreams are what we sell here.
Absolutely. And that's why people come here, to pursue that.
Yeah, and they go to the Universal Studios tour, which is not a tour at all. Which even the tour is fake. I mean, everything here is an illusion. And I know we're straying from this book, but in my Eve Ronan books, Eve Ronan's life becomes a TV series. And so she's always competing with the idealized, imaginary version of herself on TV and what the TV audience expects of her in real life when she shows up at a crime scene.
Those expectations, I have to circle back to Edison because of the accident, being shot in the face. Well, it wasn't an accident, but, I don't think he ever copped to people's expectations prior to the accident. But I think when he was shot, he really didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
He really didn't care. And any kind of expectations where he maybe would have been more flippant in the past, there's a meanness.
That's right. He's lost some empathy.
He has.
And it's Wally who gives him that empathy back, because Wally can see the motivation in characters and what they do. He understands people better than Edison does. And that's why they make a perfect detective together and not apart. Why he almost immediately finds his soulmate. But they comment on the autoerotic, not autoerotic, but the homoerotic thing about Watson and Holmes. And sort of also people think that about Edison Bixby and Wally. I mean, they live together and they bicker like a married couple. But that's also part of
They bring out the best in each other.
And sometimes the worst.
So in the book, Bixby, as you pointed out, treats the built environment not just as a setting for what has happened, but he says as an accomplice to what has happened. What, as an author, did you find the most shocking in regards to how space influences people and can influence behavior, not just for the good, but for the evil?
There's a book by, I believe it's Paco Underhill, called The Call of the Mall, and I think another book he wrote is Why We Buy. And the ways we are manipulated when we walk into a grocery store or when we walk into a shopping mall are just astounding. It's almost as if we give up free will. The way we are motivated by the design of the architectural design of the space, the colors, the way products are shelved or not shelved, even the smell in the room, the music in the air. It's astonishing how they are able to jack up sales using those elements to essentially hypnotize us and drive us to do things. And we are blissfully unaware of it. And how much of our free will we give up as well going into some spaces. Like casinos. It's no accident that you have, in some Las Vegas casinos, you have to go up this big, long escalator to get into the casino. That's because as you're going up the big, long escalator, you're being filmed from a whole bunch of different directions, and they're creating whole version of you in their computer system for facial and body recognition, so they can track your movements through the entire casino. I mean, it's just everything about. There was a study done, for instance, I believe it was Barnes and Noble, where if they piped the smell of chocolate into the air, romance novels sold 33% better. I mean, things like that. It's just
That's a science.
it's a
There's
science, but they're
behind
using
that.
it against you. And the way that landscape design is used to control behavior, in fact, there's whole sections of Paris that were intentionally designed to make it impossible for people to protest effectively against the government. And I mean, it's just astonishing how design is used to manipulate our behavior, constrain our behavior, control our behavior. And the best criminals are the ones who are design sociopaths, who don't look at a door and say, oh, that's the way in, or look at a window and say, that's the way for looking out, or that's a wall and I will avoid that. They see through it all. They create their own windows, entrances, exits, and wall. I mean, they will not use a design space for the intention it was designed for. Well, take, for example, this studio. This studio is a house. You have repurposed a piece of property that was designed for a clear purpose, with individual rooms set aside for clear purposes. This is the room where people will sleep and mate. This is the room where people will groom and defecate. Here's the room where they will cook. Here's the room where they will socialize. And you've taken the architecture and you've made it into a studio instead. That's subverting the design, the intent. There are people who change churches into homes. They find other purposes for purpose-built structures. The same is true for tools. A letter opener was designed to open letters, but I've used a letter opener to unscrew things. I've used a letter opener as a back scratcher. You can use it to stab things. You could use it to hold papers. You could use it to eat grapes. I mean, there's a million things. You could stir your coffee with it. Each object has an affordance, the thing it is designed to be used for. And it has usually a signifier that by looking at the device, it jumps out and says, here's what I was designed for and here's how to use me. But very clever criminals will subvert those and use them for other things. Use a hammer as a murder weapon or whatnot. And you were asking what I found most amazing was just that the whole world is designed in such a way to make nature less difficult for us, to make it easier for us to find the things we need to survive, but also to utterly control our behavior, to whether it's social or political or financial or whatever, to segregate what we do and where we go. And we have roads that we follow. We have paths that we follow. Now, if you look at a park, you'll sometimes see paths and people cut across grass because they have a natural way they want to go. And designers should lean into that, but they're trying to subvert you into going the way they want you to go, to see the things they want you to see. Once I started reading all these books, I couldn't stop. It was like eating potato chips. And then how do I take all this stuff I'm reading and somehow make it entertaining, make it seem natural, make it seem funny? And that's why there isn't a lot of exposition in my book where I explain all the stuff I'm now boring your audience with. But at the end of my book, I do have almost like a citation you'd have in a textbook where I reference all the papers I've read, all the books I've read that back up the most outlandish stuff in my book that people will read. Some people will read and go, oh my God, that's ridiculous. On the other hand, I've had people, like Don Norman's a good example. He wrote The Design of Everyday Things. And Jeff Manna is another example. He wrote a book called The Burglar's Guide to the City, who read my book, and went, oh my God, you turned our science into murder.
What have you done?
And it's accurate. I mean, it's really astonishing.
So I'm reading the book, and I did appreciate, and I wasn't expecting, there are 3 cases that Wally and Edison, or 4.
I don't remember.
There might be.
It was 3 books ago for me.
3 or 4 cases that you use to help the reader understand how design is intentional and can support murder.
I'm a big believer in show, don't tell. It's much more entertaining.
It absolutely is. So I really did appreciate that.
But when I realized I had to write this book, I'd been doing all this research on the side, and I was researching an entirely different novel, a book called Hidden in Smoke. And I went to a museum in Tasmania that is built inside a mountain. It is impregnable. You cannot rob this museum. You can't burglarize it. And I think it's Don Norman's theses. Thesi? I can't. Theses sounds like something your dog does on your living room floor. But is that the more secure you make a place, the more vulnerable it becomes to being robbed. That it's actually counterintuitive. But I'm looking at this place, and I started looking at it the way a design person would look at it, a cognitive scientist or an Edison Bixby, though I hadn't created Edison Bixby yet. And as I walked through this museum, I started casing it. And I realized,
look at you.
Oh my God, I could rob this place. And instead of robbing that place, I created a fictional version of it, and I put it on an island in Japan and used it in my book, Hidden in Smoke. But I got the idea because as I walked through this museum, I realized the security actually works against it. And my observations as I cased the perimeter of the building and all that, I actually used for my thief in Hidden in Smoke as he cased this fictional museum and how he broke in. And it's how I would break in if I were. So it was, once I did that, I realized I have to write this book because now I'm thinking the way he does.
I really want readers to take advantage of all the recommendations that you make at the end of all the writing that is out there to understand this whole point of view. Because when I first started to understand how things are designed around me, I got a little paranoid.
Well, to give you an example how simple design can change behavior, your kid is making a mess in their room. They won't throw anything away. Put a basketball hoop over the trash can, or put a basketball hoop over the laundry basket. And suddenly they will start keeping their room clean because they're playing that game. They use the same thing inside men's urinals, men's bathrooms. They'll put a fly on the urinal, and we have this instinctive need to aim. And if you aim at that fly, you won't be splattering urine all over the bathroom. And so there's a whole school of design that finds simple ways to make it enjoyable for you to do what other people want you to do. And once you start seeing that as well, and you go to amusement parks or public parks where your pathways are predetermined and where they want you to go and what they want you to look at, you start to see what the design is that make you do what they want you to do.
How many books have you written with Edison and
I'm writing the
Wally?
second one now.
A second one.
It'll come out
perfect.
this time next year. But I've written 2 books since I wrote this one, so that's why I'm just a little bit
And
behind.
It's not about design and
The second
influence of
Edison
design.
Bixby book is obviously.
Is right,
yeah.
right. But these other 2 books.
No, the other books aren't.
Completely
They're my other books.
But you're still taking influences.
Yes.
And
I
using
am
them.
influenced by all the research I do.
Yes.
And they show up in other books that I do. I can't help it. I mean, books are a product of who you are. I once did an interview many years ago when I was a journalist with Danny Arnold, who created Barney Miller. And I don't know how many of you remember the Barney Miller show, but it was a comedy set inside a New York police precinct. And I said, so what's the secret to the comedy in Barney Miller? And he goes, no matter who comes in the precinct, whether it's a black gang member, it's the Pope, it's a Chinese restaurant owner, they're all Jews. And if you watch the show, you realize, yes, it's that Jewish humor. Doesn't matter who they are, what their ethnicity is, what their religion is.
And
They are essentially Jews and members of my family. And I just realized he's absolutely right. Because that was his frame of reference. Jewish humor, that's the world he comes from. I write Jews. And if you watch Woody Allen movies,
right.
Same thing. But that's why my wife gets worried. I'm going to do a terrible version of her French accent. We've been married 38 years. I can't do her sweet French accent. But she says, if I die before my husband, I don't care if I'm hit by a meteor or a bus. I want a complete investigation because he spends all day coming up with perfect murders. It's a wise thing.
And now we have this on the show.
Oh, yeah.
So, I will be there to support her final wishes.
That's right. I tried to explain to her, I'm solving perfect murders. I'm not committing them.
This book drops on June 1st.
Yes.
Yes.
When you say drops, it makes it sound like a thesis.
where are people going to be able to find it?
They can find it at Amazon. Well, it depends. If you want the ebook, you can only find the ebook at Amazon.com. You can find the hardcover paperback at your favorite online bookstore, or your favorite local bookstore can order it for you if they aren't shrewd and smart enough to be stocking it on their shelves.
Audible?
Audible, yes.
Are you narrating it?
Hell no.
What?
Did you just hear the way I read what I'd read already?
It was beautiful.
I can't do characters. I can't do different voices. There's a British woman in this book.
Yes.
You don't want to hear me trying to do a British accent. You
But I
heard my
wanna-
bad French accent, and I've been living with a French woman for 40 years.
I want to hear Wally's voice. And
I can't
Edison's
do a
voice.
Kentucky accent. I mean, I've heard it many times, but I can't do it. You're looking at me like you think I'm lying. I'm not lying.
You really?
No. I can't do a Kentucky accent. I promise you.
Try it. Try it now. Come on.
I don't even know what one sounds like. I'd end up sounding like Sean Connery. The name is Bond. James Bond. That's my Kentucky accent.
Point taken.
Oh, I just noticed you have your logo on your note cards.
I do.
This is like being on the
Look
Tonight
at
Show.
this.
This is like really slick and professional.
Thank
You have a band I haven't
I
seen?
didn't think anyone really noticed.
That's cool.
Thank you.
This is classy now.
I have one more question.
It's my real hair.
Yes. How
Okay.
did you know?
That's the first question they asked me. Is that hair really yours?
Algorithm-driven apps. You talked also about scent marketing, chocolate in the malls. How much of our daily routine and environment do you think is used against us?
Oh, all
'Cause
the
you've
time.
cited-
Try ending a subscription.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's tough.
Websites are designed as well.
Right.
They hide how to get your
Right.
your into your subscription, or how to get a refund. I mean,
So how do we even approach that when we realize that so much of it is working against us?
it just is being observant, being aware of your surroundings, being aware of how you're being manipulated. Am I making? I mean, always the buy button is larger than the other ones. I mean, the way a website is designed is to manipulate your behavior so you will achieve the goal that the designer wants you to achieve. That's true of any product. That's true of so many things. I mean, there's stuff that is done that actually makes our lives better. For instance, on freeways, the stripping between lanes is much longer because we're moving faster than the human body is used to moving. And if we didn't have markers that made it seem like we were moving slower, we'd be dizzy and nauseous all the time.
I had no
so,
idea.
So there are things that are done to make our lives easier where design is our friend. But there are also times where design is just inept. You know, how many times have you been to a hotel room and are not able to figure out how to use the shower or the faucet?
It's so
things that should be
frustrating.
simple. I mean, it's a faucet. There's hot and cold water. And the flow. That's all you need to control. Or hotel rooms or banquet halls, whatever, where you can't figure out how to use the light switches. Like even in this room, there are switches on the wall. If you don't live here, I wouldn't know what those 4 switches on the wall do. The same thing happens when you're renting a banquet space and you're going to give a presentation. There's a bunch of switches on the wall, and you have to call somebody in tech support to come into the room and explain to you which switch actually turns on the lights.
So I do want to clarify something because I did some research on it. Edison talks about the accident that killed his parents.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And Wally describes what happened and how Edison used that tragedy to change the laws of how the freeway was designed because he blamed the design of the freeway for his parents' accident, as well as the motor car that they were driving. And you say, and those changes are real, and you can see them today. So I started looking, I think it was the 405 and the 101, and there was an intersection that because of this tragedy, the freeway changed.
Right.
So is there an actual accident that changed? I couldn't find anything.
I have a news bulletin for you.
Oh,
A revelation.
I know.
The book is fiction.
Oh, but you said it was true.
Well, of course I said it was true.
found
In the
that
world of Edison
fascinating.
Bixby, it's true.
So I actually started doing, I got to put the
I got
book
a
down.
note from somebody once on a book I wrote about an alley in Antwerp that I said went a certain direction. And someone wrote back saying, it goes the other direction. I said, not in my book, it doesn't. It's fiction, and so I take liberties. Like the book I'm writing right now, I create a fictional museum in the center of Marina Bay in Singapore. That museum does not exist. In Hidden in Smoke, I created a museum on a private island in Japan. That island and that museum don't exist. I have a book in my Eve Ronan series called Bone Canyon. So many people have tried to find that canyon. It doesn't exist. I came up with a canyon that met my needs.
You confuse the readers intentionally. Because
Yes.
there are so many times in this
Yes.
book where Wally says, this is true.
Absolutely.
This has happened.
I am guilty of that. In my book, what I try to do is come up with enough real stuff that you then believe all the absolute lies and
Absolutely.
BS. I am designing a fictional experience for you
Oh, that's a
to
mic
elicit
drop.
a response that I want. I want to draw you in, and I do it. I play all kinds of tricks. In a murder mystery, it's like a magician. I am controlling the design of the act or of the trick, and I am getting you to look over here and not over here.
Mm-hmm.
I am directing your behavior and your attention in the same way that designers do for everything else. So yeah.
Well, mission accomplished. Readers should be made aware of this, and now they have.
Well, in a good mystery.
Suspension of disbelief, and it's a good one.
In a fairly
It's a
clued
good
mystery,
one.
you should be able to go back and reread the book and see all the clues you
The
missed.
aha moments.
And the same should be true of a fairly clued TV mystery or movie mystery. You should be able to watch it again and say, oh God, I was so busy paying attention to this funny bit over here, or this thing they told me was important that I missed what was really important. And that is the hard thing about writing mysteries, is you're not only telling a story, but you're also creating a puzzle and playing a trick at the same time.
Yeah.
It's a magic trick. And that's why it's so hard to write them and why so few people can do it well. And I'm not convinced I do it well, but it's much harder than just telling a boy meets girl, family story or romance story, in my view. I'm sure there are people who write romances and family dramas who would say, oh, no, mysteries are easy. You don't have to get into the core of how people feel and think.
Not according to Wally.
Yeah, not according to Wally.
I will say on that note, when it comes to a good mystery, there's nothing superfluous. There's no word, there's no instance, there's no experience that really doesn't mean anything.
Well, there is. It's the ones I put there to trick you,
Well,
to distract
it's
you.
there for a reason.
Yeah, it's there
That's
for a
what-
reason, but it might
exactly
seem
that.
superfluous. Oh, that's a funny joke, or
Yes.
that's an interesting aside. No.
And I'm going to say it. I think I had the thought maybe midway through the book, I know who it is.
Mhm.
And it flew out of my brain quicker than lightning. Like, no, gone.
Right.
Let's continue on down the road. And then at the end, I had that moment of, I was right.
But here's the thing. If you write a good mystery, did you hate me for that? No, you felt you were so smart.
I felt
You
like,
felt, I'm
I
good.
am so smart.
Yeah, so if you construct a good mystery, because I write so many mysteries for books and television, if a mystery is fairly clued, 9 times out of 10, I know who done it immediately. But that's if they're playing fair with me.
Yes.
And if I'm enjoying the ride,
Yes.
it's like I can appreciate.
Yes.
Well, I'll give you a good example. Columbo is an open mystery. We all know who done it.
Which
And
is
our pleasure
fascinating.
is watching Columbo find the pompous rich ass's mistake.
The journey of it.
And so it's
right?
not about solving the crime before Columbo. You already know how it was done. And so it really is the pleasure of the puzzle and the characters interacting within it. And if you do that well, then the reader or viewer will not feel cheated if they get ahead of you and know who done it. If you do it poorly, they're going to go, that was a dumb, weak,
Yeah.
uninspired mystery.
And films are like that
and it was
too.
too easy for me to
Right.
figure out. And now they're just wasting time. They're narratively treading water, and I'm bored.
Yeah.
I'm going to get popcorn, whatever. And for me, it's why I can't get into all these forensic shows. They don't exist anymore, but the CSIs, that's all about, pubic hair and cells left behind and all that. If you don't have a DNA lab, if you can't process this evidence in your own kitchen, there's no way you're going to figure out the crime. So for me, and the characters have no character. They're all telling each other what they already know. Well, as you know, with a spectrum chronometer, we can look at the shmagoogie and figure out the shmagagi. Yeah, so I mean, it's boring, bland. The characters are one dimensional. I could never care about any of those forensic shows. But a detective show where the characters are rich and fun and you buy into the relationships, the mystery almost becomes, to use your word, superfluous. I mean, I loved the Rockford Files, but I don't remember a single mystery.
Right.
I just remember the situations that Rockford got stuck in.
And you love the character,
Yeah.
and you love the relationships.
And even Monk,
Yes.
which a TV show I worked on. I also wrote 15 Monk novels. We all love the impossible mysteries that Monk solves by virtue of his obsessive compulsive disorder. But that's not what you really remember. You remember how these mysteries forced Monk into really awkward situations that revealed new aspects of his disorder and what made him funny, but also what made him a tragic character. And for me, that's the most important part of writing any book like this or any TV show like this.
I'm excited to have the world be introduced to Edison and to Wally and all the characters who constantly try to tell Edison that he's crazy. And don't you just want that ability to go through life and just not care what other people think?
No, because I think caring what other people think actually makes you a better person.
But there is a degree of you can't care about what everybody. As a writer, you can't care about what everybody thinks.
You could end up like a writer I won't name.
You never pick up a pen, but that you don't.
There's
use
a writer I know who's like, I'll be him for a moment on this show. Well, Tami, my other books have been exceptional, but this one may be the most exceptional of my masterpieces yet. This is so good. I mean, the writing is just so incisive and brilliant. I mean, I never look at my work and think that. And this particular writer, no one ever says to him or her, you could use some editing. You could use some tightening up. You've been doing the same plot for a while now. So it's good to be open to what other people think. It actually will improve your life and make you a better person. So you're not just walking around believing your own PR that you're generating yourself about how brilliant you are.
I think that's what Edison was like before he got shot.
Edison, before he got shot, was loving life.
Yeah.
He was thrown into adulthood way too soon because of his parents' death. And because he won the lawsuits against the state and against the automotive, the company that made his parents' car, he's obscenely wealthy. So he has never wanted for anything except maybe that human connection. I think one reason he engages in all these disposable relationships with women is because he can't make that emotional commitment because of what he's lost. But I don't delve too much into that because I think the danger of a character like this in a world that I take really seriously makes him seem ridiculous. I mean, he still is ridiculous, but even the TV show Monk created a universe that had no concept in reality, no foot in reality. There's no police department in the world that would let this civilian stomp around a crime scene and consult because he's got an obsessive compulsive disorder. And virtually none of the cases he solves would stand up in court because he doesn't have the physical evidence. And the chain of evidence gets corrupted all the time in those cases. I mean, look at Perry Mason. I scream at the TV, don't confess on the witness stand.
Every single episode.
He says, you're the killer. And you could say, no, I'm not. Admit it. You threw him off the cliff. I don't know what you're smoking, Perry. And Perry could leave all the evidence. Well, that's very good. If you want to charge me with a crime, do that. But I'm not saying anything more without my attorney. I mean, it's just, we all love the moment that Perry Mason made people confess to crimes they had no business confessing to on the witness stand. It's just.
We expected that. Don't disappoint us.
We never questioned that Angela Lansbury, everywhere she goes, people die. I want to write the book where it turns out that Angela Lansbury is a serial killer and she's been framing everybody she's met all over the country because there's no way she encounters that many murders.
And when there are that many people dying, shouldn't you just move?
Yeah, well, it's not all in Cabot Cove, but this woman has more cousins with murderous tendencies who turn out to be innocent. But yeah, we buy into that. And because it's comforting. You want to see the same character solving a murder every week. And to be fair, I'm doing it now. I'm an executive producer on a show called You're Killing Me, starring Brooke Shields and Amalia Williamson and Tom Cavanaugh and Acorn, where Brooke Shields plays this hugely successful mystery writer whose audience is getting a little gray and a little old, and she's forced to team up with a much younger partner who's never written a novel before, and they become writing partners, but they also solve murders every week. And you'd think at a certain point they'd wonder, what dark cloud are we living under that no one was dropping dead before I met this young woman. Now, maybe we should give up our partnership because people weren't dying before we met. But now they're solving crimes. We accept that in the universe of that show or that book, this is the way things work.
Where can people find that show?
Acorn
On
and
Acorn,
AMC
okay.
Plus.
Okay,
And I think also BBC America.
fantastic.
But
I'd heard she was working on a project, but I didn't know what it was. Now I do, and now I'll watch it.
it's great fun. Lighthearted.
I love her, and
entertainment.
I almost called him Ed. Tom, remember
Well,
the
he was
show
famous
Ed?
for Ed, yeah.
Yes, I love that show.
But he's done a lot since then. He was a villain
Oh,
on
yeah.
The Flash. I never watched
Yes.
The Flash.
Yeah,
but-
no, he was good.
And he
was
did a
good.
series that a friend of mine created, Fief Sutton, called Darrow and Darrow, where it was a Hallmark movie series.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, Fief Sutton is also on You're Killing Me. So it's a reunion of sorts.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
June 1st, Murder by Design by Lee Goldberg.
And it's fiction.
And it's fiction. That's a good ending. The end. Thank you.
My pleasure.